It's Inktober time, and spooky season is coming pretty fast. If that isn't a good day to draw brains with ink, I don't know what is. Well, hello there, I'm Détroit. I want to draw something simple, just a way to experiment with cross-hatching. In my little sketchbook, I drew a brain with pencil first, off camera. I didn't know what to draw at the time. Usually, when a drawing video starts and there's already a sketch on screen, be it on paper or digital, it means I started drawing without a thought of what to draw. Then the idea slowly forms, and only when I know what to do I turn the camera on, so this is what happened today. I ended up drawing a brain with pencil and now I'm inking it. I'm using my Rotring Isograph 0.35 because it's a really nice pen. It has a nice feel to it, crisp and consistent lines. It's not as thick as my cross fountain pen, nor as thin as the Kawiko Sport. Sometimes at least. There are ways to make lines thicker or not when using a fountain pen. Anyway, brains. That's a good starter for today's talk, today's little lone podcast. Brains are the symbol, the embodiment of thinking and intelligence. First of all, I don't know what intelligence means. It's a bullshit indicator for something you don't need an indicator for. Everyone is different and there is no reference scale for intelligence anyway. What I do know though is studying and the brain power it takes. I'm 24 and I've been in school for basically my whole life. I'm still a student, technically, even though I'm now paid for my studies. That's how PhD studies work, at least in the French system. According to my analytics, not many of you listeners are from France. So I thought it would be a good idea to tell you about the French school system, if you don't know about it. I don't know much about the other countries' scholar systems, but from what I know, there's a good chance it's different. Tell me in the comments what the differences are and where you're from. So grades. In France, we are scored for each exam, each test, with grades between 0 and 20. 20 is perfect and 0 is basically when you leave with an empty sheet of paper. So 10 is the usual passing grade. There are no A's or B's or nothing of the sort with pluses and such. Now, I think it's different. It starts a bit later during school, but before, we had grades since we started primary school. You know what? I'm leaving myself the choice to make a future video on that topic. For now, let me just tell you about how the school progression goes, or at least how it went for me. And I'm gonna translate the names literally, so it might not correspond to what you have in your country with a similar name. First off is maternary school. Now, that is when you are between like 3 and 5. It's called little section, middle section, and big section. You basically do drawings and play all day, and maybe you start learning to read. Then you start primary school at like 6 years old. First year is called CP, primary class, then CE1 and CE2, elementary classes, then CM1 and CM2, middle classes. After primary school, you start what we call collège. Remember, it's the same name, but it's not college. More on that later. Now, it gets confusing. You're 11 years old and you enter what is called the 6th class. After that is the 5th, the 4th, and the 3rd. At the end of the 3rd year, which is the 4th really, it's a big national level exam called the brevet. That's at 14 years old. Bear with me for the rest. I know it's a lengthy process, but I think it's interesting. After you have that degree, the brevet, you enter high school, or as we call it, lycée. The classes are 2nd, then 1st class, and then terminal class. Now you're 17 and you take another national exam called the baccalauréat, or bac. That's, I think, where the majority of people stop studying. That's the normal course, you could say. Although, of course, I don't mean that people who don't reach that or go further are abnormal. That's just the majority. So by now, at the end of lycée, you can enter superior studies. You're now an adult. And now it gets so freaking confusing with all the types of schools, universities, special classes and diplomas, working studies as well. Let me just tell you about the studies I did, okay? The normal way is usually to go to university. You take 3 years of licence, that's how it's called, and then 2 years of masters. What I did is go to prep school. preparatory class for big schools is the translated full name. That's 2 years that are so full of work you basically stop living for 2 years. You become a machine made for thinking work. In my case, physics, math, chemistry, that sort of things. You learn so much so fast. Just to compare, we went over the entire math and physics program of high school in just 3 days. And that's 2 years like that. To enter this sort of class, you need to be one of the best. It's very elitist, and I'm not really okay with that, but it's the reality of it. It is literally to form people to be the best at what they do for when they enter big prestigious schools after that. And that's what I did next. I entered an engineering school. Now, it might be different where you're from, but there's no real distinction between an engineering degree and a master's degree in France. It's the same level of studies. It's just that one doesn't prepare you for research, and the other doesn't prepare you for working in industry. But as time goes, I think the line blurs more and more. Now, after learning all about mathematics and stuff in prep school, engineering school is where you can forget it all and start living again. There's no weekly exams anymore, and you can go out to drink on weekends with friends. You don't have to study every day, all day, even at home. It really feels good after prep school. Engineering school lasts 3 years, and for my 3rd year, I chose to follow a double diploma with university to have both an engineering degree and a master's degree. Noteworthy, the last semester of the last year for both engineering and masters consists of a 6-month internship in a lab or a company where you get paid and get experience, and you have to write a full report to validate it and get the degree. Also noteworthy, now to get this graduate diploma you need to spend at least 6 weeks in another country, either for studies or for internship, which I think is really cool. Making people go out in the world is very cool and opens a lot of perspective. I went to Japan for a 4-month internship for that. So now I have 2 degrees which really mean the exact same thing but didn't make me work the slightest bit more. So I have a master's degree and an engineering degree both in nanophysics. By then you're about 23. You have spent your whole life in school, but you can start working a job for a very good salary. Or you can keep on studying and go for a PhD. 3 more years and a pay about half as what you could pretend to otherwise, but so much more interesting. Anyway, that has to be the end of the drawing video because I basically told you my entire studies course and it's starting to be a bit long. If you're interested in that sort of stuff, or the PhD stuff, or any step of that, tell me in the comments because I realized that apart from the 0 to 20 grades, I haven't said much about how school really works in France. And you can leave a like, of course. Subscribe for more drawing videos. I allow myself to rant and follow a simple stream of consciousness for these videos, but for digital drawings, every Sunday, my commentary is more rational and about drawing. Check out my Instagram, Reddit, and Twitter in the description. It's always a pleasure to interact with you there too. I'm Detroit, and I wish you a happy spooky season. Bye!